I'm Kristen Oakes-White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. My partner Avery Davidson is on assignment this week. Well, the topic of trade has made a lot of headlines this year, and in the past 2 weeks especially. Imminent trade deals with China and Japan have farmers and the markets hopeful for the first time in a while. As TWILA's Neil Melancon tells us, while these latest developments are positive, there's still a lot left to work out.
President Donald Trump's recent visit to Louisiana was to boost Republican candidates for governor ahead of the election last week. During the president's speech, he highlighted an issue that many in Louisiana are even more concerned about: trade. For more than a year, the trade war with China has seen that country place tariffs on U.S. agriculture goods with very little buying of products, most of which flow out of the Mississippi River. Recent negotiations, called Phase 1, have spurred some Chinese buying, with more promise to come. However, the details of what will be bought are still up in the air, according to Greg Fox, a grain marketing specialist with the Louisiana Farm Bureau.
They agreed to buy $40 to $50 billion worth of ag products. So still some uncertainty there because we don't know all the details of Phase 1 and we don't know what ag products they're going to buy. We assume it's going to be a lot of pork and could be soybeans, but they've already purchased almost 6 million metric tons of soybeans from the U.S. already. So how much more do they actually need is still a question mark.
The question mark comes in the form of African swine flu, which China says now has killed more than 50% of its herd. Even if we get a trade deal with China, the buying opportunities might not be there.
One of the big unknowns, though, is what exactly does China need because of the swine fever they've dealt with? The usage has almost been cut in half.
One recent trade breakthrough that has been good is a bilateral agreement with Japan that gets U.S. beef back into that country. While it is a good short-term measure, it doesn't include rice, a long sticking point between the two countries.
Commodities like rice that had a place in TPP are not a part of this deal so far, but there's hope for the future that those could be brought to the table. And there's things that Japan needs to see from the U.S., mainly in auto manufacturing and some of those things that they're good at and proud of and have to offer. They want to see some back and forth with the U.S. to trade off with our ag commodities.
In the meantime, Brown says everyone in the ag industry is hopeful there will be more stability before next year's crop starts to take shape. However, short-term deals like the one with Japan may be the reality in the current climate.
For farmers and ranchers and business owners in this country, I don't guess that they necessarily care how the deals get done, but we need deals done. There's plenty of trade still going on, but not at the level that farmers and ranchers need. They need open markets, they need to be competitive, and if we're going to hinder ourselves in this country through politics, then maybe bilateral agreements is where we're headed.
We're past the October 15th deadline for what would have been the latest round of tariffs on Chinese products. However, those tariffs have been postponed, not canceled, pending successful negotiations. The next round of tariffs is still scheduled for December. And Kristen, I know farmers like your husband want to avoid those tariffs, or at least just have some kind of plan going forward. As Andy talked about, the problem with those bilateral negotiations is there are patchwork fixes, and I know that what farmers want right now is some kind of stability in these markets, if not better prices.
They certainly want stability, because when you've got a year like this year, which you had terrible markets, the growing conditions were not optimal by any means. You know, everybody you talked to said they had a mediocre crop at best if they got a decent crop out. And I think that if you can just get some stability, like you said, in the markets, that would offer them something to lean back on. Because when you have a year like this year, it was just kind of like Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Right, and I know that volatility is so bad, not just for right now, but when they go to get loans. You know, banks don't know where to put all those numbers because the markets are shifting so far and so fast that it's just not good for that.
It's very true. And then you have, I know Landon and them, at least this year, had half of a crop left over from last year to sell.
Right.
And so when you've got, just not a good year for prices this year. Indeed. So hopefully things get better.
I hope they get better for Landon.
I know, and for all farmers across the state, thank you so much for keeping us up to date on this important topic. Neil Melancon.